Controller of Budget, Margaret Nyakang'o, has raised a red flag over excessive executive travel, with the national government blowing away 25 billion in local and foreign travel in the last financial year. Now, the expenses now come barely a year after the president promised to reduce the budget by 50% in an effort to reduce wastage. Now, it has been 2 years since President William Ruto first pledged to cut government travel spending by 11 billion to allow for more money for development. And the president would a year later announce further stringent measures to curb unnecessary travel to allow more funds to flow into the budgetary deficit after the Finance Bill 2024 was shut down. However, the report by the Auditor General on the expenditure by the national government has shown little to no reduction in the expenditure. The Controller of Budget revealed that the national government spent 25.46 billion on travel alone between the 1st of July 2024 to 30th June 2025. The amount is a meager drop of 1.7 billion from the target of 11 billion. And the State House, which made an extra requisition of 5 billion under Article 223, which allows for additional funding in extraordinary circumstances, splashed the millions on domestic travel, hospitality, supplies, and services, fuel expenses, and maintenance of motor vehicles. Here are the full details to the story.
I still see elements of too much foreign travel. And in a sense, what that means is that we are encroaching on those resources that we should be using for development. So if you go through the report as of the end of June 2025, you will see that our overall development expenditure reduced compared to financial year 23-24. The disbursements were made very well, but when you look at the deliverables, they were not commensurate to the funds that had been disbursed. These funds have to come from somewhere. So either another vote must be reduced for us to finance the Article 223, or we must borrow. And therefore, by extension, it means that our indebtedness, either in terms of domestic borrowing or foreign borrowing, is impacted.
To government probes alleged entry of Jubaland forces in Mandera, and the government is investigating reports that Jubaland forces from Somalia have allegedly crossed into the country following recent reports from Mandera County residents. Speaking in Busia at the beginning of his Jukwaa la Usalama tour of Western Kenya, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen refuted the claims, adding that the government will find criminal elements and tear them as per international laws, a warning against politicizing the issue. Now, Murkomen, however, said that those seeking refuge will be assisted in collaboration with the Somalia government, which has a good relationship with Kenya. And his remarks come amid concerns raised by leaders and former state officials over the matter, calling on President Ruto to act promptly. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua appealed to Ruto to deploy the Kenya Defence Forces to Mandera to expel the forces allegedly operating within the town. And similarly, Mandera Governor Aden Khalif claimed that the forces are crippling activities in the county, posing a security risk to the residents. On his part, DAP Kenya party leader Eugene Wamalwa questioned the Defense Cabinet Secretary Soipan Tuya for not publicly addressing the matter and assuring the Kenyans living along the border of their safety. Here are the full details to the story.
Risking Kenyan lives and property is shameful, reckless, and betrayal of our sovereignty. Foreign conflicts must be fought on foreign soil, not on the streets of Mandera.
I think when a territory of a nation is violated, it attracts serious repercussions and reprisals against the country or the offending forces.
And I do not want this committee to politicize extremely important and delicate security issues of what could be happening in Mandera. We will await to hear from the Ministry of Defense.
Mara nyingi vita ama malumbano ikizidi upande wa Somalia, utaona watu wanatorokea upande wa Kenya. Na hiyo kutorokea kwao hapa si kwa mwaliko wa Kenya, ni kwa sababu wanatafuta usalama.
And away from that now to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission unveils a roadmap for 23 by-elections set for November 27th. Now the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has set the ball rolling for the November 27th by-elections, stating that campaigns will run between October 8th and November 24th. Chairman Edung Ethokon has directed all aspirants to adhere to the Elections Code of Conduct with the processing of candidates are set for September. Now, the by-elections will likely be a litmus test for the new IEBC team and the political formations that are taking shape ahead of the 2027 general elections. Here are full details to the story. And identity of Kenyan police who died in Haiti accident revealed. And the Kenyan police officer who was killed in an accident along the Kenkolf Petionville Road at Palin 9 in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, was identified as Corporal Kennedy Mutuku Nzure. And he was killed on August 31st, 2025 in a tragic road accident along with a civilian after two armored vehicles were involved in an accident along a mountain top road above Port-au-Prince. Now, in addition to the deaths, 8 Kenyans led multinational security support mission officers were injured, 3 of them critically, officials said. Now, the statement said Corporal Nzuve was a proud member of Kenya's 3rd contingent to the MSS, where he consistently demonstrated courage, dedication, and unwavering commitment until his untimely passing. Born on March 8, 1984 in Machakos County, he joined the National Police Service in 2005 and later served with the Rapid Development Unit, RDU. Now, over the years, he served with distinction in various parts of Kenya, including Narok and Baringo counties, before taking up his final mission in Haiti. On Monday, September 1st, 2025, the MSS's family, including personnel from Kenya, the Bahamas, Jamaica, El Salvador, Guatemala, alongside staff from DMG, Amentam, Aspen, and Gadaworld, gathered at the main dining facility at LSAI to honor his memory in a solemn service before his remains were flown to the Dominican Republic for preservation and onward repatriation to Kenya. But also, the family back home are seeking government's assistance in burying and the sending of their kin. Here are the full details to the story.
Tuliongea na yeye Friday. Saturday, Sunday sikumpigia simu. Na alikuwa hatuna furaha, hakuwa na shida na huko. Alikuwa akiongea, alikuwa anasema hata huko amependa sana. Kuna watoto 2. First born ni msichana. Na candidate hii mwaka. Kijana ako grade 8.
Inatuumiza sana. Saidi. Juu saa hizi hatujui tuko wapi. Tunangoja serikali tuamulie tutaanzia wapi na tutaelekea wapi.
Tunaweza hitaji ni support, full support ikiwezekana. Tupate kuona mtoto wetu tumemsindikiza vizuri na kwa heshima yake. Hivyo ndo tunaweza omba tu kwa serikali kama inawezekana.
And away from that, now to anxiety after Kenyans report the return of violent robberies in the Nairobi CBD. And anxiety has gripped Nairobians after an influx of reports of violent robberies, attacks and intimidation in the Nairobi Central Business District flooded the internet. Now, over the last 1 week, Kenyans have been taking to TikTok to share their experiences at the hands of juvenile delinquents who they say have been following them around, intimidating them, robbing them, and even threatening to stab or smear human feces on them. Now, according to several victims, these youthful criminal gangs have been operating around the Hilton roundabout down to the entirety of Tomboya Street, with others camping several meters away from the Galitos restaurant from where they launch their attacks or stealthily follow their victims. And almost all of the people who have shared their experiences online claim that the criminals are mostly young boys who operate in gangs and are armed. Some, it has been reported, are even threatening to hurl human feces onto uncooperative victims. These are the stories that are making headlines in the dailies, and we started off with the Daily Standard. And the headlining story is a selfish union. And in the name of a broad-based government, President William Ruto and Raila Odinga sealed a pact that blurred the opposition into irrelevance. Now, what was meant to be a counterweight to executive fiat has morphed into an alliance that silences dissent and shields scandals. Now, Raila wants an optimism. Kenyans have been left with a government without restraint. And that is a story that you found on page 6 of the Standard this morning. Now, 1 year later, and there is something fundamentally wrong with the state of Kenya under the existing regime. Scandal after scandal and attempts to sell off Kenya's crucial infrastructure on the cheap are the modus operandi of this disgraced regime. Kalonzo Musyoka, that is the Wiper party leader, speaking about these days government. Now, that story you'll find in the Standard on page 6. All right, from the Standard now to the Daily Nation. Puzzle of 123,000 missing grade 9 students. Where are they? The story is on page 2. Thousands of learners who sat the grade 6 exam 3 years ago will not participate in next month's assessment to determine senior school admission. Questions are now being asked. What happened to the lot? That story you'll find on page 2 of the Nation this morning. Among other stories, county operations stole over tenders fight with state. Now, officials say the electronic procurement system hitches have blocked purchases of essential supplies with the crucial services grinding to a halt. That is a story that you'll find on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. As well, retirement. No, I did not pick chickens over car gift, says retiree. And after 34 years as a gardener at the German ambassador's premises, Hudson Lumbwaka is retiring under a cloud of social media controversy. That is a story that you'll find on page 14 of the Daily Nation. 34 years, that is quite a stint. And away from that now to why many parties could be barred from next polls. That is on page 7. That is in regards to the elections, by-elections that are going to be happening November 24th. Yes. And MCAs lose court battle for more hefty allowances. That story that you'll find on page 8 in the Nation this morning. Turns out that every legislator, doesn't matter what type, is trying to fight for more allowances to them, but nobody is allowing any reprieve for the Kenyan taxpayer. That's your dailies. When we come back from the break, we're coming back with a roundup of all your sporting action. Keep it science.